Mr. Takaya, you know, I've had the opportunity to go through each edition of the letter, but more specifically the one that General Babangida has now said is authentic, which is the first one. And the issues that came up amongst them were an allegation that the APC is not sincere about restructuring and that it's essentially an election time ploy was one allegation. Another allegation was that there is an intentional delay in dealing with the farmer-herdsman clashes. And then the third one is essentially that there needs to be a change in the generation of leadership in the country. And I want to ask you, because the former military president was not explicit about what party he would support. He didn't mention PDP, for example, even though he's been aligned with PDP in the past. He didn't mention the coalition specifically. Where do you think Nigeria would be able to find this new generation of leadership that General Babangida is espousing so strongly?
Well, I would prefer to think that he was talking like a statesman rather than a partisan, advising Nigerians what to happen. But when you look backwards deeply, probably he was also part of the mess. The so-called new breed, which he embarked on, the young shall grow and all that kind of thing during his period, ended up as new bread. People in search of new bread. People in search of money without working for it. People that have become, young men that have become converted into beggars on the political scene. And young men that, in fact, compete with traditional beggars or drum beaters, kind of, and even break the drums of the traditional beggars at the rally points, because they consider them as the ones taking away the money from the politicians at the rally ground. And they are the ones that go wrestling and maiming each other simply because of the pittances that are thrown at them. This is the new breed. And I fear which type of leadership this new breed will bring. What I expect is that there is a new direction, a change of political paradigm, where you train the youth towards good leadership succession.
But Mr. Takaya, you can't possibly be suggesting that of all the youths in this country, of all the professionals, the technocrats, even some of the politicians, that there's nobody that has the capacity to lead this country to the promised land?
You need to point them out, you need to develop them, and you need to, what will I say, to raise their image out so that the bad ones can copy from them. But you have to punish the bad ones. You also have to punish their godfathers who developed them. And that is the only way, because if you don't punish the godfathers who use them as thugs, then the young men will grow to think that it pays to be thuggish, and when they get to power, it pays to rip the treasury off in order to influence the next election.
Some observers have suggested that this move, the letters written by former President Olusegun Obasanjo and former military President Babangida, are in some form a form of penitence or a form of atonement for past wrongdoings, perhaps on their part or on the part of the parties that they aligned with. Do you believe that idea, that they really do want a different future than the past that they were part of creating for the country?
I'm not in their mind, but I hope that it is some kind of penitence. I agree with that first aspect of it, but I'm not in their mind. So if it was a form of penitence, good for Nigeria. But if it's a gimmick, then so bad, because we are getting too tired of, the dancing, steps that we cannot follow of some leadership. People are not straight. Leaders are not straight. We don't even know the ideology that informs them, that drives their moves. We need leaders that are straightforward. What they said yesterday is what we'll find today, and what they will do tomorrow. That's what we want.
I find it interesting. One of the things that we've, criticisms that has trailed the letters that, especially President Obasanjo wrote, was that he had direct access to the president. And one of the things that has come out in the statement of denial was that, the General Ibrahim Babangida is said to have said, well, I have unfettered access to, the presidency. If I need to utter my criticism, you know, I can very well tell the president to his face. Do you think, you know, that they have really exhausted all channels of advice before coming to the public?
You would ask me that. You ask the person that said it. You ask Babangida if he has exhausted the channel or not. If he has, and the other man turned the deaf ear, too bad. And he has absolute right to put it to the public sphere. Because I won't know how many times he has gone to Mr. President and offer his advice. And if he has gone so many times and he is weary of going and is not yielding any results, then so bad.
But don't you think that if it did go, I mean, we would have seen it in the media at least?
Well, it's not everything that, you know, statesmen do that are out on the media. There are certain things that they do quietly. They visit in their personal parlors. The head of state himself may visit Babangida in his own house. The media would not know. And Babangida may visit the head of state in his separate parlor, which is not covered by media or even the security. You will not know. It depends on the purpose of their visit. These are people who grew up together. These are people who run public affairs together. These are people who ought to rob minds without playing into the gallery. So how many times they have been able to do this is only the two of them that will square it out. I cannot give that answer because I'm not tied to the apron of Babangida, such that wherever he goes, I know what he is doing and I know how many times he has visited.